Hi, welcome back to the Story By podcast. Thanks for stopping by. Today's piece is a short script I wrote for NYC Midnight again. Yeah, I've done a bunch of them. I'll actually have more about that at the end of the show. This time the genre was political satire, the element was senility, and the character was a bus driver. I ended up with civil disorder, the logline of which went something like, an investigation into the disappearance of a U.S. Senator reveals a suspect in possession of a powerful weapon. This one remains in screenplay format rather than prose because, well, I kind of liked it that way. As usual, if you want to hang around afterward, there'll be more about the story. But for now, let's get into the sparring match between Agent Bellwether and Carl Kreutzfeldt. Civil disorder. Fade in. Interior, interview room, day. Carl Kreutzfeldt, sturdy 60s male, gray-haired, mustachioed, sits on a battered metal chair and leans on a scarred conference room table. He wears a burgundy sweater vest bearing the logo for Campaign Caravans. Carl makes faces at himself in the one-way glass mirror that nearly covers one wall of the otherwise seafoam green tiled room. After a few moments, Carl yawns. The fake wood door beside the mirror opens, and Agent Bellwether, lean, leathery, and somewhere between 30 and 40, steps in carrying a fat manila folder. He wears the dark suit of a federal agent, but has snakeskin boots, a gleaming belt buckle, and a bolo tie. "Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm Agent Bellwether." Bellwether strides across the room to Carl, extends his right hand. Carl shakes his hand. Carl Kreutzfeldt. Bellwether grabs a chair, at least as abused as Carl's, spins it, plunks himself down across the table from Carl, and tosses the folder onto the table. "Kreutzfeldt. Is that German?" "Could be." "Mr. Kreutzfeldt, I understand you were the last person to see Senator Blesson before his disappearance." Exterior parking lot, day. The Re-elect Senator Blessing campaign bus sits in a crowded parking lot, a giant red, white, and blue metallic Twinkie of modern transportation. Carl tumbles backward out the door onto the pavement. Carl, in voiceover, "I suppose so. He shoved me out of the campaign bus, yelled beep beep, slammed the door, and peeled away." Senator Blessing, square-jawed, 40s to 50s male, suit rumpled, tie askew, hair wild, says the lines MOS as Carl narrates. The bus speeds away, MOS, scatters pedestrians in its wake. Interior, interview room, day. "You give any indication where he's headed?" He did not. "His behavior seem weird to you?" "I've spent years driving around politicians. I see lots of behavior." "So this came out of nowhere?" "Sure, I guess." "Look, he's driving a charter bus with his face and name plastered all over it. You should be able to spot that by satellite or CCTV or something. Well, that there's the rubber." "Rub." "Excuse me?" "That there's the rub." Hamlet. More accurately rendered, "Aye, there's the rub." "Why would he rub his eye?" "Who?" "That Hamlet." "Rub his..." "No, it means..." "Never mind. You were asking about Senator Blessing." "Was I?" "Yes." Bellwether shakes his head. "Funny. Well, anyways, the bus." "Yes. The bus? Where is it?" "Campaign Caravans has some sort of GPS gadget on its vehicles. Can't you find it that way?" "Yep, if the doohickey was operating." "Well, that's weird. You suspect sabotage?" "Sabotage." A look of confusion crosses Bellwether's face, and he glances at the folder. Absently, he opens the folder, leafs through some papers and photos as if he's never seen them before. He lifts a photo from the stack. "Is this you?" The photo shows a younger Carl, smiling and holding hands with an attractive woman who wears a lei. "That is me, and my wife Evelyn. Looks like a picture from our Hawaii trip a few years ago." "Hey, this one is you too. And these." He pulls out several photos, displays them. They feature either Carl or Carl and Evelyn. "Wonder why I have these." "Because you suspect me of a crime and someone has collected information about me." Yeah, that's probably it. Do you suspect me, Agent Bellwether? Of what? Of having something to do with the senator's disappearance? Bellwether looks at Carl, then around the room, then back at the folder. He sifts through the material. I think so. Honest, I'm a little confused all of a sudden. That's normal. It is? You shook my hand. As a result, you're experiencing a sort of short-term dementia. Without continued exposure, it'll fade in a day or two. How did you... No idea. I just started leaking dementia. Because of constant close exposure, Evelyn suffered severely. It wasn't till I made the rather painful decision to stay away from her forever that she began to recover. That's so sad. It is. But I have found renewed purpose. Exterior, City Park, day. Carl in voiceover. After the recent change in administration, Senator Blessing and many of his fellow party members have shown a renewed interest in cutting treatment programs for the sick and the elderly. Senator Blessing dances in a fountain wearing only colorful boxers and his tie. He sings various nursery rhymes and children's songs and splashes about with abandon. People surround the area taking pictures and video with cell phones and uploading them to the world. Police arrive, there's a merry chase around the fountain and nearby playground equipment as Blessing tries to avoid them. He is eventually subdued and jammed into a patrol car. Interior, hospital room, day. Carl in voiceover. I simply enabled them to experience what those people experience without proper care. Orderlies struggle to restrain Blessing as he fights and screams obscenities. Eventually someone gets a hypo full of sedative into him, and he fades out. Interior, interview room, day. That's some story. It is. So I'm free to go. Are you? I think so, don't you? Sure? I think I'm gonna lay down. Bet you'll feel better afterward. Bellwether looks at the scattered pictures. That's you. Are those yours? Yep, I'll just take them with me. Okay. Carl collects the folder and photos, heads toward the door. Carl stops, turns toward Bellwether. Kreutzfeld. Is that plan of yours gonna work? Probably not. They'll just be forced out of office and replaced with someone equally mean-spirited and greedy. So why do it? It makes me feel like I'm doing something, Agent Bellwether. Carl exits the room. Bellwether sits in the chair, stares at the table. Exterior, suburban street, day. Rows of houses with manicured lawns line each side of the street. Minivans and upper-middle-class sedans rest in the driveways as children bike along the sidewalk and parents go about yard business. Super, 2 weeks later. Evelyn Kreutzfeld, youthful 60s, wearing scruffy jeans, faded blouse, and gardening hat, exits a home carrying gardening tools and proceeds to work on a flower bed at the front of the house. A short distance up the block, Carl watches Evelyn from inside a sedan that blends with the neighborhood. His expression fluctuates from happiness at first seeing her, to wistfulness, to sadness. Interior, Carl's car, day. The passenger door opens and Agent Bellwether drops into the seat. Howdy, Carl. I don't think we were done talking the other day. Before Carl responds, Bellwether hits him with a stun gun. Exterior, suburban street, day. Carl's car drives past Evelyn, Bellwether at the wheel. Evelyn looks up as it passes, then resumes work. Interior, interview room, day. Carl sits in a chair bolted to the floor behind a table in an otherwise empty white room. This time he's cuffed and shackled, dressed in an orange jumpsuit with a bag over his head. Bellwether, voiceover from an overhead speaker. Carl, you up yet? Carl stirs, raises his bagged head. Bellwether? Howdy, partner. Feeling all right? I'm surprised you remembered our chat. Honestly, I barely remembered you. But the interview was recorded, so your agency knows everything. Well, they know you have your, what do we call it, superpower? Gift? Curse. Now, Carl, that's no way to think of your ability. Is this about Blessing? Hell, we ain't concerned about him. Turns out you were right. He can be easily replaced. Besides, no one really got hurt. Carl clunks his bagged head against the table in irritation. Stupid, stupid, stupid. A few YouTubers went viral, and the public sort of ignored some important legislation slip-sliding through Congress in the meantime. So I'm not under arrest? You're being detained till we can figure out what to do with you. Let me go. Ain't in the room with you, and I ain't touched you without gloves and stuff, Carl. That little Jedi mind crap ain't working this time. Let me guess. You want to use me as a weapon. Carl leans his head back, exasperated by their stupidity. Thought had crossed our minds. Get you a menial job near someone we need easily swayed. Doesn't always work like that. Dementia takes lots of different forms. Violent outbursts, erratic behavior. Don't much matter which way it shakes out. It's disruptive. That's the key. Problem, of course, is keeping you in line. Carl's head pops up. Yeah, we thought about that. But I said threatening the missus would probably backfire. Blessing wasn't the first one you took a run at. He's just the one that made the news. You gonna appeal to patriotism then? Nope. I have a compromise for you. You do one we want, you get to do one you want. You assume I have some... We saw your list. Even has a few we wanted on it. Bonus for both of us. So, what's it gonna be? You leave Evelyn alone? My word on it. Interior office, day. Dark wood-paneled office surrounded by bookshelves. A giant desk sits in the center, backlit by the sole window. Pastor Gary Franklin, 60s, in dress shirt and slacks, with ornate gold cross necklace displayed, sits behind the desk. He writes in a notebook, pausing occasionally to reference something in the open Bible beside it. Sharper than any double-edged sword. Wrath of God. Against all ungodliness and unrighteousness. His desk phone chirps. Secretary in voiceover. Pastor Franklin, the reporter's here to see you. Thank you, Miss Sparks. Send him in. Carl enters the room dressed in khakis, dress shirt, and tie, and carrying a notebook and pen. His tie is tacked with an American flag cross pin. Pastor Franklin, I'm Peter Stone with Modern Crusader magazine. I called about your upcoming rally for life. Franklin stands. Carl shakes his hand. They both sit. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Stone. Always nice to meet a member of the press who isn't swayed by the deceiver's temptations. Glad to hear it, Pastor. Like I said on the phone, I'd like to spend some time getting to know you and the Defending the Defenseless movement. I'd be glad to tell you about my movement. Well, then if you're still willing, I'd like to stick close to you until the rally. Really see how you do what you do. I'd be delighted. It will be quite a show. I'm sure it will, Pastor Franklin. I'm sure it will. When I was first assigned the elements for this competition, I thought the same thing I always think. I am never going to get these things to work. Senility, really? Political satire? In like 10 pages? One of the judges suggested that there was a, quote, distinct Doonesbury element, end quote, to the screenplay, and described it as an, quote, urbane and sophisticated piece of creative writing, end quote. I don't know about all that, but I think it ended up as a pretty good story. I'd kind of like to shoot this one, so if anyone knows where I can get a campaign bus for a day, I'd appreciate knowing about it. I've actually enjoyed the NYC Midnight competitions, both as writing prompts and as practice at making deadlines, meeting requirements, and tightening a script. In fact, I like it so much that I'm afraid there won't be a show next week and possibly the next, because the opening round of another NYC Midnight competition runs from the 20th to the following weekend. And I'm not going to be able to write a new script, put out a show, deal with my straight job and my regular life, all at the same time. But, if it's any consolation, there's a good chance whatever I write will probably make it onto a future episode. So, I guess we'll meet back here in a couple weeks. Thanks again for your patience, and as always, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Story by Podcast is a production of Fiddling Around Productions, LLC, and copyright 2018. Theme music is provided by Nalani Proctor, nalaniproctor.com, and used with permission. All other music provided by Kevin MacLeod, incompetech.com, edited by Lewayne L. White, and licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license.